Hi, my name is Svitlana Biedarieva, and this is a series of videos dedicated to the exhibition At the Frontline, Ukrainian Art 2013-2019, that currently takes place at the Seredok, Ukrainian Cultural and Educational Center in Winnipeg. Today we will talk with the artist Yevgenia Belorusets about her project Victories of the Defeated that she presents at the exhibition.
Hi.
Yevgenia.
Hi,
So
it's
very
nice
nice to see you, and welcome. And I would like first that you present yourself and talk a little bit about your project, the Victories of the Defeated that you present at the exhibition, and that you speak about the experience of participating in this exhibition.
Hi, yes, thank you for asking. Thank you for your questions, and it's great that this exhibition is happening. I would start with my experience of participating. It is a quite strange experience because I haven't seen the show itself, so I wasn't visiting any venues where the exhibition was shown. So it's more like, for me, would be very interesting to hear about any impressions or ideas, how works are speaking together, how works are interacting in the space, and what is happening between works and viewers. I think these questions still need to be answered, but it is great to take part in such a project because it is like a message that is sent far away from my country, from Ukrainian artistic, social, discussional context to a completely different context in Mexico. That I'm a bit sorry that I am not pretty well informed about that context, about that different context where we are presenting our works, where we are showing our work in practice. So I think this whole exhibitional project is very much experimental because of the difference between worlds, between contexts, between realities, and it's also might be educational because it's like telling nowadays history to a pretty much different audience, to a completely different, presenting it in a completely different political reality. I have followed the whole preparational work of this exhibition. I was speaking with curators, with you too, about the idea of the show. And from the very beginning, I was pretty much excited about the idea that works will be shown in Mexico and that this dialogue between the dialogue between us, all of us, curators, artists, museum, has somehow taken place. So I'm presenting the work Victories of the Defeated. It is all my works are a bit unfinished, so I think it might happen that I will come back to this work again. It is a big documentary and literary and photographical work that is rooted in the context of Ukrainian war, that is connected to the context of life in the war zone. The whole project is dedicated to Ukrainian minds that were proceeding to work during the most difficult years of the Russian-Ukrainian armed conflict in the eastern Ukraine in 2014, 15, and 16. So 17 even. But I think the most shocking and hard and incredible years that nobody could really handle here were 14, 15, and kind of 16, these 3 years. That 3 years were really traumatic and shocking for everybody in Ukraine, because in 2014, when war has happened, it was so unexpected and appeared to be so unreal to everybody in Ukraine that I think I started this my work, with so many questions that I didn't know where I will go with it, how it will be developed, which realities I will photograph, or which question as I will ask during my working process. So it was completely open, and I think the whole thinking about the war was at that time was very open, and nothing was really clear, and nothing was the whole discussion about war was in the form of raw material. The whole discussion about war in Ukraine was for everybody a raw material, where everybody was trying to figure out how to start to live with this situation, to deal with this situation. And during this first month of my documentary work in Eastern Ukraine, I understood that it would be good to focus the work on big industry, on mining industry in the situation of war and conflict, because the whole mining industry in Ukraine is an industry connected somehow metaphorically, a bit, the idea of this industry is connected to idea of the war, because it is a very dangerous production where people are in a danger to die during the working process. And industry was, even before 2014, in the situation of crisis. Some of productions were in a very poor, bad condition, and the war was already somehow was already in the air, in the context of mines, because yes, because protests were taking place, mining workers' protests were taking place, and I think the war suddenly, in my eyes, it was suddenly a moment to speak again, to make it big, to speak again together about what is this in the Soviet Union, in the times of Soviet Union, what is this created industry? What means it to work there? What means it to spend life working in such a big production? And what is the human rights situation in this mining context, and what is and how the subjectivity can be found in the context of this kind of work. So together with Ukrainian independent mining trade unions, I started photographical research in mines that were situated in the war zone. And together with workers, trade union activists, we traveled, we were speaking with other workers, and we practically tried together to understand what is happening, how work, this very dangerous, full of risk work, is even possible in the situation of artillery fires, of chaos, of crazy situation of this kind of war.
How do you think the audience in Canada can interpret this work? How it speaks to the public in the conditions of Canadian exhibition?
Yeah, I was not speaking about Canadian exhibition because it is next step of this project that yes, also very interesting for me, like a Mexican exhibition. Canada is different. There is a huge Ukrainian diaspora existing in Canada, and I think somehow I suppose, I have never been to Canada, but I suppose that Ukrainian political, the whole context of Ukrainian modern history and politics and war and problems are much closer to Canada than to Mexico. So I suppose that, and I hope that this exhibition will, in Canada, inspire discussions about situation in Ukraine and make them more complex, because I think that there is always a risk when you're far away from your country and studying this country like a research case or a scientific case. Suddenly you are imprisoned in a very simplified political position. And I hope that that this exhibition will create more complex and discussion and maybe raise some uncomfortable questions that will widen the whole view on this war and the situation of the person inside of this conflict, involved in this conflict.
Your project, Victories of the Defeated, is actually much larger than the part that we are presenting in the exhibition, because these 8 photos and the text is just a small part of the whole project. It is a series of how many? More than 40 works, right? In total?
150
150 works.
And yes.
And also you published a book, Fortunate Fallings, that has some parts related to this, to the series. Yes?
Yes.
You have some text in this book that relate to the series.
Yes.
So it is like an ongoing project that brings more and more material and more research. Are you planning to continue it with kind of current conditions, or you're planning to maybe to transform it to some kind of further projects where you will take the same conceptual scope, or maybe the same theme of the series? How does this project impact your future projects, or are you going to continue it in some other way?
I must admit, it was very hard for me to work on it in the recent maybe 2 years after I have finished my book. I couldn't imagine for months and months and years, maybe this 2 years, to come back to the mines. It somehow was too hard for me. And recently, I started to think about completely different approach and step 2. Yeah, it's possible I will come back to these areas, but with a completely different idea and new project. So I'm planning to proceed this work just on another level.
And in your work, precisely in the series of works that we present in the exhibition, you focus on the everyday living of women in this mining region. So can you tell us more about precisely the conditions of living of these women, and why did you decide to depict them in this particular way?
It was a very special moment. It is a special chapter, fragment of a chapter that I'm showing in Canada and Mexico, that is speaking about women in mines, in a mine that's supposed to be closed in the situation of a war. It is a very special story because mines were closed all the time during the independence of Ukraine. And in the Eastern Ukraine, it was never a good news for people working there. Even so, this work was incredibly hard for them. It was never a good news that the mine has to be closed or will be closed, because the whole industrial zone was created around the whole economy of small cities in the Eastern Ukraine was depending on the working mines, school, kindergarten, the whole systems of the small mining cities. So the closure of a mine is very often not a tragedy of only of people working there, but also for the whole city. And when the war started, I think in Ukrainian government, Ukrainian government was changing also, and it was very unclear what they should do with state-funded mining production, coal mining productions in the Eastern Ukraine. And there were some chaotic decisions happening. And one of them was the idea to close one of the mines in a very small city near Lysychansk. It is just a Donbas region that was at that moment under control of Ukrainian government and is still under control of Ukrainian government. So it is a part of Ukraine that was occupied only for several months in 2014. So after the spring of 2014, since the summer of 2014, the city was under control of Ukrainian government. Still, there was a decision to close this mine, and the whole city was in a condition of panic, of not only because not at all because the mine has been closed, but because of this feeling of a danger that is very close to the city. War was happening and nobody knew what will come next. And of course, all small businesses were leaving the area. And of course, all businesses that were a bit bigger, but still able to change the place, they were going away. And in this moment, I was just coming inside one of the mines, and it was the first moment during my whole visit in the Eastern East Ukrainian Mind that women invited me to the place where they were changing, women working in the mine, to speak, just to speak about their situation. And during this very, I would say, not very deep conversation, I just felt the craziness of the idea to close the mine in the moment of crisis, in the moment of war. And we were speaking about it, and suddenly they said that they can photograph them when they were changing. Only they asked me not to show their faces. So this moment when they were showing themselves was kind of a protest against the whole absurdity of their working living situation, where they found themselves. And also I think it was an expression of a protest that couldn't have any form, any other form at that moment, because in the situation of war, you cannot go to any demonstrations or protest actions. The social fear that everything can be manipulated and used against you, or all you will do can be used against you by different forces and different interests, and you cannot control and even cannot understand, was very deep at that moment. And so these women were practically not able even to say that they are so unhappy with different decisions of Ukrainian government, because it would be, at that moment, it would be, of course, interpreted as anti-Ukrainian position. So it was a very crazy moment when I was in the situation with people who were practically the whole moment, historical moment, were taken away the possibility to speak from them, the possibility to raise their voice in any form. So these photographs are more like documents of this moment, of this of a silence and protest in the situation of silence. So my project is called Victories of the Defeated, and I am trying to speak about Walter Benjamin's understanding of history, that practically is something where defeated have no voice and no right, no possibility to write this history together. So it is not their history. And I was always in this project practically trying to look or to find hidden historical contexts or hidden positions that are not represented, and which have no place even, or no platform to be represented. And this is one of the cases.
Okay, thank you very much for such detailed analysis of your project and telling us what was actually the reason and the inspiration to create it. I would like to ask the last question, is what projects you are working on now, and what are your plans for kind of the nearest future?
I have several projects in progress, and I'm slowly working on them. Now I'm finishing the second book. It will become a completely different book, and I don't want just to describe it now, or should I don't know if it has any sense. It is just, it will be again based on interviews. and it will show different aspects of Ukrainian society, but it will be completely different, completely different topic, and very provocative and new for me. And on another hand, I'm working on a new photographical project that I'm not planning to expand on 5 or 8 or 4 years. I'm going to visit several Ukrainian Roma communities, Roma and Sinti communities, but mostly Roma communities, and document their everyday life. And it's something I was very long waiting for to do, and very long thinking and dreaming to do. And I hope this year, even in the situation of quarantine, I would be able to do this.
Okay. I would like to wish you good luck with your work on the future projects, and thank you so much for participating in the exhibition, and thank you for giving this interview.
Thank you for great questions, and thank you for working on this show and making it possible. It's great that it is happening.
Thank you so much.